Hockey Inside Out, presented to you by the Montreal Gazette.
Welcome to the HIO Show. I'm Stu Cowan, joined again this week by Chris Nyland, Jack Todd, and Andy Bennett from CBC Daybreak. Chris, the win over the St. Louis Blues was an impressive victory. This is not a fluky 7-0 start for this Canadiens team.
No, it isn't at all. This team is really, they surprised a lot of people. You know, when they were 5-0, I was surprised that, that was the best start ever. And to see them last night against a team that's big, strong, tough team, talented team, and really put their legs to that team. They outskated them. They outworked them at times. It looked like it was going to be a tough game for them after the first period, but boy, they came through. They survived that first period. Carey Price did his job, gave them an opportunity to stay in that game when it looked like, ooh, they're in trouble. And they bounced back and scored enough goals, obviously, to beat that team.
I think that first period was maybe a good thing for them, Jack. I think it was a wake-up call, right?
I've almost been feeling like a loss would be a good thing. The longer the streak goes on, the more pressure there is to sustain it and all that. But that first period was almost the equivalent of a loss. They were getting almost run off the ice. And then they sucked it up, and by the end, they were doing what they've done every game this year.
But what does it say about a team, and of course Carey Price, that they 17 shots they allowed in that first period, and they still go into the first intermission up 1-0. I mean, an exciting game, and I think exciting to watch the way that they rebounded in the second. It didn't even, from the second the puck dropped in the second period, they were a different team than the first period. So I think that says a lot about the way that they come together and the way that they're able to rebound and weather a storm like that in the first period.
Max Pacioretty was saying after the game, Chris, that they almost don't need the coach almost doesn't have to say anything to his team right now. They know, they realize when they're doing things wrong, and they turned it around in that second period and got things going. When
you win and you don't have to say a whole lot, which is a good thing, and they probably don't want to hear from him anyway. How's that, Michelle? Again, when things are going good, it's like, we're not going to come on here and start ripping the team, when they're not doing well. This guy, that guy, we're pointing out the system stuff, and and it's a good thing. They're playing well. They understand what they have to do. And, honestly, I think they're coaching themselves in a way. And I'm not taking away from the job the coach has done here. But the fact of the matter is, when you're playing that well and you're together, you're accountable to each other and you're coaching each other and playing for each other. And right now, they got it going on in a big way.
I think they've been around together enough that they know the system that the coach has also. But they're also, I think they're lucky that they got Carey Price under contract from 2017-18 for $6.5 million. Because how much would this guy be worth now in the market?
You know what? It got to be $10 million a year. And for who knows how long. This is the thing, this is that window. You got to get in now, because once Max and Price start getting paid something close to what they're worth, that's going to be awfully tough to manage under the cap.
And I was thinking last night too, I was like, it wasn't that long ago that Bob Gainey was having to explain to people that Carey Price is a thoroughbred and why he wanted to keep him.
On me, that's enough.
But yeah, look, that was 2009 when he was booed by Canadians in the Bell Center, throwing up the hands, game. You know what I mean? And look how much he's grown as a player and as a person. The maturity of these guys over a relatively short period of time is really impressive. And I thought it was funny. Carey Price still getting flack for going a little skate last night when that puck went in and bounced off the glass, went in the net, which ultimately was no goal. But you could see Twitter, what's Price doing out of the net? It's like, listen, Price wants to go for a little skate.
He's entitled.
You're talking about maturity. Steve Ott was trying to stir the pot last night. Nathan Beaulieu dropped the gloves. But you know a little bit about Steve Ott, I think.
Yeah, I met him back in Dallas his first year. He was a big fan of Knuckles. He was all excited. And
should have knocked him out on the spot.
No, I love him. And I watched him at training camp, and I'm there. Oh, that's why he likes me. He was running around, just going nuts. But you know what? As bad as some of the things he does out there, he's good for his team. Guys like him. He's tough to play against. Those players help teams win hockey games.
Nathan Beaulieu showed a lot of courage, though. As Carey Price said, he's not the biggest guy, but he's not afraid of anybody, Nathan.
No, he'll get in there and mix it, and he holds his own. He threw an awful lot of shots with that, and then after a while I was saying, well, he's throwing a lot, but he doesn't seem to be doing much damage, but at least he's throwing.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I was asked on my show last week who did I think the first Hab would be to get in a fight, and
Yeah.
That was my choice.
Doesn't
make me a genius. He's probably the only guy.
Well, there's not. Yeah.
I mean, he's the only guy who's had a fight on that team in the last 3 years, maybe.
I'm so over the fighting. I'm sorry. I know you disagree, Chris. But I
don't
Are
disagree.
you over the
because I don't
fighting?
necessarily disagree.
Well,
yeah,
what do you think? Do they need that? Did that add anything last night? Did it do something to the game?
Gallagher had a good point last night after the game. So a guy like Audie says, with the talent St. Louis has, he's trying to take somebody off so they can play 4-on-4, thinking that the Blues have a better chance of scoring Carey Price 4-on-4 than 5-on-5. So that might be a part of the strategy also.
I still think there's a place for fighting in hockey in situations like that. I don't have a problem with it. My problem is the two guys who can't play, who go out and just slug it out for no reason. And we see what happened last year with George Parros, the way he went down. I mean, what impact did that really have in the game? Yeah. Listen, a couple guys who are hard-nosed hockey players who, after a while, you're getting under each other's skin, and you had enough, and you say, all right, let's settle this. I don't have a problem with that, but I do have a problem with the stage fighting and the guys who really can't play.
Well, Alexander Semen against the Blues got his first goal. It's sort of neat. Alex Galchenyuk raced over, picked up the puck for him. So might this be a sign of things to come?
The shot that he made was like a basketball player, falling over backwards outside the three-point line. If he can stand on one skate, even backing up, he's got a rifle wrist shot. This is like a big league talent, man. If they can get him going, that's the one missing component, that extra sniper in there. They said last night he needs praise. Well, Michel, learn the Russian for good job and repeat it 23 times a game.
He was saying this week, though, that he wanted Semen to shoot more, and he said even Semen would agree that that's what he wanted to do, was to be shooting the puck a little bit more. And you saw that last night. I almost felt like you could see the wheels of his brain moving on that shot, when he kind of spun around and decided, I'm going to spin around and I'm going to shoot this, and it goes in. So, you kind of wish for the best for him, but it's a bit stressful to watch him because he does have that reputation as being, kind of a streaky player. So,
Pat Schrader said after the game too. He says they're all the guys are telling him to shoot the puck more. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back, everybody. Michel Therrien said after one of the practices this week that basically the team is doing 95% of the same stuff it's done since he took over as far as the process, the system. I don't know. Do you think that's true, Chris?
Yeah, I do. Listen, I've watched this team. I watch how they forecheck. I watch how they break out of their zone. I watch them to the neutral zone. And they haven't done a whole lot different than they were doing last year. To me, the big difference is the players they put into this lineup and the shifts they've made. Now you look at Petrie here full-time, Bolio here full-time. Big difference in being up and down, coming late in the season. Fleischmann, Weiss and Desharnais, that line. That's huge for a third line. And then Semen coming on board and moving Galchenyuk to the middle. Another really good line. So this team has the depth up front that they've never had. And the speed. But if you watch on the forecheck, they basically do the same thing they did last year. If the defender's behind the net, one man in front, his partner's there, that wing cheats down and takes away the pass, and then they get three guys to take care of the rest of them in the back. And the only time they really set up and trap is when there's the defenseman on the opposing team is starting to come out of the zone. They'll go with one guy and then they'll fall in behind. And the difference coming up the ice is they may stretch one guy, but even sometimes he comes back and comes across and makes himself available. But the other two guys are going back for the puck now. We're seeing them come up the ice more together, and they have that speed, team speed overall, that they didn't have before, and a lot of it comes from the back end.
They've got the players in place I think they want now. It's like Fleischmann is almost like, when you go to the dollar store and you find something sort of cool. That's sort of what Bergevin seems to have found there.
That's his trademark. I mean, Fleischmann and Semen both. He didn't give up anything. He's not paying a whole lot, and he keeps coming up with these guys. Better each season. He gets better at it. And those two pickups, if they're playing in June, they're going to be a critical part of it, I think.
And Fleischmann last night, I think you could see there were moments where you could see why he was making $4.5 million last season. And so great to look down the stat sheet last night. Not one player in single digits for ice time, which is just unbelievable. They keep talking about the depth and rolling 4 lines, but you can see it on that sheet. And that's an unusual thing for the Canadiens. They usually have, their third or fourth lines 6 to 8 minutes of ice time. But the fact that you have these guys that are eating up big minutes, and like Chris said with that third and fourth line, those guys spend most of the time in the opposing team's zone. So you could just see what a difference that makes in the third period with those fresh legs.
It's frustrating with Carey Price. It's frustrating when the fourth line is playing the whole game in your end also. And you're mentioning ice time. It wasn't PK Subban who had the most ice time against the Blues. It was Jeff Petrie. And he's just looked fantastic. And I think he's made Emelin a better player.
Meanwhile, I think back, Jamie was at the mall yesterday and saw Bergevin in the dollar store. But Petrie, again, I've talked about the power play and splitting those two guys up, Subban and Markov. And Jeff Petrie is so capable of playing on that first unit to switch things up. But this kid's a beast out there. He's big, he's strong, he moves the puck, he's talented, and he's an American.
He's also, when you see him in the locker room, he's bigger than you would think he'd be. He's a solid,
big kid.
He's a big upper body, big solid kid. We're talking about depth. There's only 2 players on the Canadiens right now who don't have a point, Gilbert and Emelin. But
send him down.
Cut him. Waivers.
But you're saying you like Gilbert too, right? He doesn't get the credit.
I do. He doesn't get the love, Tommy Gilbert. He's got the long hair, looks a little bit like a lumberjack, the plaid shirt. He doesn't get the love here. He's not loud. He's not a big mouth. He's steady. He does his job. And, in this town, that's just...
as long as the checks don't bounce, I think he'll live without the love.
Isn't the rule sometimes for defensemen, if you don't, if you're not noticing them, usually you notice a defenseman when he's done something wrong. Those guys, I don't know. And Emelin, I think he played a great game yesterday. I was surprised that he doesn't have a point yet, but if he keeps playing the way that he was last night, I don't think they're going to have any problems with him.
I know Devante Smith-Pelly took a lot of abuse last year. He's really looked good, and after the game, Pat Chiaretti was saying he was so happy to see Smith-Pelly finally get his first point on Torrey Mitchell's goal, just because the kid's been working so hard.
He'd been all over it, and again, the big thing with him was losing the weight. We talked about it. I had that issue with Lemire. He said, Chris, not 205, 202. And this kid, he was big. He's a little heavy. You can't get there, and then you can't sustain it the whole game if you're out of shape.
You know how I can tell he's playing better? I haven't heard about Yuri Sekac in about 3 weeks.
That's a good point. A very, very good point. Yeah. Andy, we were in the room after the game against St. Louis, and we were interviewing Torrey Mitchell at the same time, and it was sort of cool because he's a local kid. He scored a goal, and he was just...
Greenfield Park.
Have we mentioned it yet?
But just the look on his face, you were saying on radio, it didn't come over the way his comments after the game, the way when you were actually looking at him.
No, he doesn't, because he has this sort of like Clint Eastwood style of speaking with the clenched teeth that, it's great, but if you could see the look on his face after scoring that goal, and you saw it on the ice too, which I also really love, because the Canadiens have a couple of players that aren't that demonstrative when they score, and that's fine. I know that's the NHL style, act like you've been there before. But Torrey Mitchell, down on one knee, pumping the fist, looked so happy when he scored, and the Bell Center crowd obviously loved it as well.
It's great.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
What concerns you have moving forward? They play Buffalo Friday, Toronto Saturday. Just more of the same?
I'm just looking for this team to keep playing the same way. Not a whole lot of concern there. I hope they're just ready for Buffalo. They don't underestimate them like they did all last year. That team really got up to play the Montreal Canadiens, and they're a better hockey team this year, Buffalo. But moving forward, I guess the one thing maybe down the road is a little bit of that toughness. Somebody can step in there. So you don't want to see Nathan Beaulieu having a fight all the time.
Yeah.
Step in for guys. It's good to have that team toughness, but when you do have an idiot on the other team, it's nice to have somebody to come in and kind of calm things down.
I thought you said you liked Ott.
I do, but he's an idiot.
That's where they're missing Cassian, though. Bergevin did go out to get that missing piece.
Yeah, he's got him. Belongs to the team, but whether he'll ever play another minute for this team, who knows? Sad story right now.
Well, that's it for this week. We'll see you again next week on the HIO Show.